Welcome to another video here on the Giant Take YouTube channel. We are back and finally here for this edge video, the top edges in the 2022 NFL draft coming up in about a month. We're super excited to get you this one and, obviously go through our top, 6, Alex, that we have here, prospects. Whether you're watching this, whether you're listening, we appreciate you joining us. And with that, my name is Josh, and I'm with my co-host here, Alex. We are, the Giant Take podcast at whole, and then we also have the Giant Take YouTube channel and all of our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're all on there too, giving you New York Giants and NFL draft content. So let me introduce my co-host, Alex, first. Alex, how are you? And then we can get into these prospects.
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about some of these edge guys. This is a really strong edge rusher class. Obviously, some things have happened in the past couple of days that we didn't really take into account, whether you're talking about someone who got injured on their pro day, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But, that doesn't really change the rankings for us. We're just looking at the prospects. We're looking at the tape. We're looking at the combine and really making our judge about what we think, the top guys in this class are. We're kind of doing a top 5, but really a top 6. But, top 5 sounds better. And we'll have kind of like a special mention, number 6. Because a lot of these guys are really close.
Yeah, they are. So we can start out with that. The special mention that you talked about, that's going to be Jermaine Johnson, 6'5", 254 pounds out of Florida State. He's a junior. And you can already start out with what his pros and cons are. And after that point, we will talk about a little blurb I have for some of these guys that happen at their combine when it comes to the kind of like a little bit of stats. We also have a player comparison for anyone who's new. And then we talk about where they could go in the draft and rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on this section. It's different for each category or position, excuse me. So for the edges, we have athleticism, pass rush, run defense, and technique. And you can check out either on the podcast or on other videos. We did quarterback, running back. Is that it? No, they're unoffensive tackles. Anyway, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, O tackles. So Jermaine Johnson, he is someone who has great length and strength. A little bit of rhyme there. He's really good at, he has quick bursts. I was trying to find the word there. He's really quick bursts on the edge. He doesn't exactly have the best bend in the class. We were talking in our 7-round mock draft for the Giants. We had them taking Josh Pascal, edge out of Kentucky in the 3rd round, I believe. And they're very similar in the way, their play style, their play types, their attributes, except Jermaine Johnson's just kind of better at everything. So he's got great length and strength. His bend is just not really elite, which is kind of his problem. He's great against the run. He always is able to hold the edge, and that's something that's always going to be valuable in the NFL level. Has a variety of pass rushing moves. He can spin inside, go outside. He does struggle with the power rush a bit for someone who, has the size that he does. He sometimes struggles in power rush technique and just power rush in general. And his lateral agility, again, kind of similar. We're talking bend, lateral agility as well, not super great. And that's kind of where you're at with Jermaine Johnson. But certainly a guy, I think him and the next few before we get to our top 2, as you can probably predict, I think, they're all really close to each other. And you could make an argument that Jermaine Johnson could be 3 or it could be 6.
And I mentioned some stats I'll mention. I said mention twice there. These are from the Senior Bowl specifically. He was one of the biggest winners at the Senior Bowl. Let's see what I have here. Not only at the combine, he posted a 4.58 40-yard dash. He also had a 1.55 10-yard split. He was the 10th pick in whoever wrote this mock draft. I don't have the name on it specifically. I think it was from ESPN. And also, it says it's now fair to wonder whether he'll last that long given his combination of burst strength, length, 34-inch arms, and production. And that's something that, Alex, you were mentioning going to his pros. Going into our little category here of how we rank him, his comparison to the NFL, his NFL comparison, Max Crosby, he's an early to mid 1st round pick. Athleticism is an 8, pass rush an 8, run defense 8, technique a 7. which is then going to give you a 7.8 out of 10 for our first special mention, Jermaine Johnson. Moving on now to our top 5. We start out with David Ojabo, 6'4", 250 pounds, Michigan junior.
Yeah, with Ojabo, obviously it was unfortunate that he got injured at his pro day. He got, I believe it was a torn Achilles, I want to say, similar injury to what Cam Akers had, right? For the Rams, right? That's where he plays for. Yeah, Cam Akers on the Rams. Ignoring his injury, he obviously didn't really get to show much at his pro day. Because of that, he's got crazy athleticism. He's just an athletic freak. He's probably the most athletic edge rusher in this class. Kavon Thibodeau slightly behind. We'll get to him a bit later. He's explosive. He's got great bend. He's got a great speed rush, and he will beat you around the edge 9 times out of 10. Where he struggles a bit is his technique. In terms of his power rush, he doesn't have a great variety of moves in many pass rushing moves. His run defense certainly is something to be desired. He needs to improve that at the NFL level. And he's a very raw prospect. He just started playing football a few years ago, and that's something you could definitely see. But he certainly, I'd say, in my opinion, has the most upside of any, bar Malik Willis, of any prospect in this draft class.
So now with the injury, that could have him slotting down very differently from what we have him here as an early first-round pick. So just keep that in mind. His NFL comparison we have here is Chandler Jones. And honestly, Alex, I'm going to change the grade from this early first round. I think with this injury of the torn Achilles, could it be anything from a late first round to an early second round pick? He can fall to the early 30s. I think so, David Ojabo. I think it'll really lower his value, but you're shaking your head differently. That's just my opinion.
I don't think he makes it past 20, but yeah, I think he was probably a top 10 pick before the injury. I think he slides.
Hey, we'll have to wait and see for
yeah,
draft day, and then we can see who's right at the end of things. So,
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Wouldn't you be happy if he falls to the second round? New York Giants take him there with our early second round pick?
I mean, I would be ecstatic, but then again, I'm not going to get myself overly excited for something I don't think so.
We'll have to wait and see. But for his rankings, we have athleticism at a 9.5, pass rush at an 8, run defense a 6, technique a 7, totaling for also a 7.8, very similar, the same rating as Jermaine Johnson. We just kind of rank him higher. Another guy we rank higher here is number 4, Trayvon Walker, who's 6'5", 272 pounds, Georgia edge rusher, of a junior from there.
Yeah, Trayvon Walker was one of those combine standouts, ran a 4.5, 140-yard dash, just looked amazing in the drills. He has elite athleticism, very similar to David Ojabo. I think, that's another name who's kind of like behind Ojabo, but I think he's very much, up there in terms of athleticism. He has versatility. He played in the inside. He played on the outside for Georgia in that Georgia defense. And I think something that a lot of people don't mention is when you're on a winning team like that Georgia defense, it's always great to, he's played around great players. He was overshadowed a lot by great players. His numbers maybe are not the best, but you saw what he did at the combine. You see bursts of it on tape. He's another really high upside guy. He's a great first step. He's great in run defense. And he's just overall a very well-rounded player. In terms of his pass rush moves, his technique, not the best. It's similar to Ojabo, maybe even a bit worse. And obviously his numbers, like I mentioned before, just not really elite enough to consider himself a top 10 pick. But now a lot of people after his outstanding combine are mocking him in that area. Definitely like Trayvon Walker. For the Giants, don't really think he's a great fit. I think you really need I don't like Trayvon Walker for the Giants. I like him as a player, but I don't like him for the Giants. It's complicated. There's various reasons for that, but this isn't, why I don't want him for the Giants. But great edge rusher, number 4 in the class for me. But yeah, great player.
And I know you mentioned his 4.51 blistering speed. You also got to take into account his very long arms, his length. He had the longest arms. Yeah, no prospect had longer arms on this list. A 35.5-inch length. So that's something to definitely take into consideration. For his NFL comparison, if anyone remembers, was that the Daniel Jones 2019 class? 2019 was Daniel Jones, if I'm correct. Rashad Gary was in that also 2019 class. I don't know if that was Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think
Alex,
so, yeah.
check when Daniel Jones was drafted, or I could check it, whatever. But
No, it's 2019 because 2020 was
okay.
Andrew Thomas.
So then
yeah,
great early first round. I don't know why I compared Rashad Gary, but whatever. Same draft class. You get what I mean. We also have an early first round pick here for Walker. Athleticism a 9, pass rush a 7, run defense a 9, technique a 5, and again another 7.8 here. I know all three of them are the same, and it's like, how are you going to rank them? That's the eye test right there. When you talk about the eye test, what we see, we value Trayvon Walker at 4, Ojabo at 5, and the special mentioner number 6, Jermaine Johnson. Moving on to number 3, George Karloff. I really like this guy, but that's also because I'm a Purdue fan. Because my cousin goes there. But anyway, 6'4", 266 pounds. I'm making this about me. Purdue, junior. Alex, get into it a little bit.
Yeah, with George Karloff, probably my favorite, underrated prospect in this class. I really like George Karloff. I think people don't like him because they don't think he has the athleticism for the NFL to be an elite edge rusher. I wouldn't say he's an athletic freak, but I think he's no slouch in the athletic department. And I think we saw that at the combine, really. It wasn't like he had a bad combine whatsoever. And he looked great in the drills as well. He's got a great first step. He's got great power rush and speed rush. He's a dynamic. He can do it all. He's got great hands, probably one of the best hands, bar Aiden Hutchinson, in this class. He is great in run defense as well. He can stop the run. He's overall very solid, well-rounded. Maybe he's not as great in run defense as someone like Trayvon Walker or, some of the, other top 2 guys that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, but he is very well-rounded. His length is not really ideal. That's something you do have to take into account with him, and his agility, right? Maybe he's not the most agile, but I think he's agile enough to be a successful edge rusher in the NFL. I really like George Karloff. Think he's going to be really good. And I do believe he will go top 10. I'm fairly certain of it. I know a lot of people have him mocked in the teens, some even in the 20s. I think George Karloff goes earlier. I think he's probably a guy who also interviews very well. And we all know that's very much an important
And I mean,
thing.
like you said, something that always, comes to mind when I watch him on tape is, like you said, the great first step, the burst off the line. Once that ball is snapped, he's one of the first guys to the quarterback, to the running back, wherever you need him to be. He's going to get there, and he's going to get there really quick. Once he jumps off that line, I would say for a quarterback, you get a little scared back there in the pocket. So going to his grades here, like you said, top 10 talent, early first round. The comp we have here is Trey Hendrickson, athleticism a 7, pass rush a 9, run defense a 7, technique an 8.5. We finally get away from those 7.8s, and we go into the 8s, 8-1. For George Karloff. Now, like Alex said, these top 2 guys gets really fun here. Starting out with Kavon Thibodeau. He's got him mocked to the Giants in a few places. Can he slip to that 5, that 7 spot? We'll have to wait and see. 6'4", 254 pounds, Oregon junior.
Yeah, I mean, Kavon Thibodeau is a beast. He's got great athleticism. He's got great bend. He shows great power. He's explosive. He's got, he does everything well. Maybe power rush leaves a bit to be desired, but he can improve that at the NFL level. He's built well. It's just he's got the perfect prototypical size for an elite edge rusher. I see a guy who the only possible con for this man is hand placement sometimes. That's something you see barely, but a little bit enough to be mentionable in this review here or in this list. Obviously, another con is his work ethic. I don't really see it. I know some people are like, he takes plays off, he does that here. I don't see it really in his tape. I can't speak for how he is as a person. Don't know him, so I can't grade him on that. Never interviewed him, never talked to him, so I'm not going to comment on that as a pro or a con. I didn't put it as a con because I don't see him taking plays off. I don't really see it. So, every player eventually gets a little bit tired. I think it's silly. I think it's a bit kind of like you're going after him, kind of like Micah Parsons was a bit. slandered, let's say, a little bit last draft
That was
season.
because of his locker room
happening
presence,
to
though,
Kavon
and his
Thibodeau.
view from teammates and how he's a bad person personally, things like that.
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. But then, it seems
bad locker room presence,
and
then we go out there and we select Kadarius Toney, who, as we know,
also
it doesn't seem like he had a great relationship with the coaches or getting catches last year. So it was weird seeing that Micah Parsons slips off the Giants draft boards because he's a bad person, but then you also draft. Anyway, this isn't, again, the Micah Parsons Kadarius Toney video, but continue.
Yeah, Kavon Thibodeau, love him. Think he's going to be great at the NFL level. We'll see him at his pro day. Excited to see what more he can do. I think he's going top 5. I don't think he gets to the Giants, but if he does, I'm snapping him up in an instant. I have
you mentioned you haven't interviewed him personally. Well, the Giants have. He spoke about that at the NFL Combine. Seems like the guy perfect for a big city if the city goes down on him for not making a good play. He said he talked about that. Clear the mind, move on to the next game. He's been a big star. He's been in the spotlight ever since high school. So he knows how it feels, unlike some guys who just can't handle the pressure of New York. So moving on from that, you talked about, I think his speed, 4.58 40-yard dash. What I always like to see, though, with the strength, 27 bench reps. When he's going against the offensive line, he's just pushing them. He's pushing them back, pushing, and then shoves them away. If the running back's coming, he's ready. He's goodbye, and then he tackles the running back to the ground, and they lose 2 or 3 yards. But he, normally it's the offensive linemen, and their job is to kind of push the edge guys or just the D-line away from them, right? That's their job. And from what it looks like when Thibodeau goes against those big, heavy offensive linemen, he's the one pushing them towards the back, towards the pocket. So something I like to see there. Instead of some guys, who use their speed to kind of move around, he kind of pushes them back. Anyway, player comparison, Khalil Mack, grade top 5 talent, early first round, athleticism a 9, pass rush a 9, run defense a 7, technique an 8. 8.4 is his total score out of 10. And we move to the number 1 guy. If you don't know it, now you do. Aiden Hutchinson, 6'7", 260 pounds, Michigan senior. I mean, Alex, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, this guy, he's great in the run game. His hand use, his technique is top notch. It's already NFL level, pretty close to it at least. He's quick off the line. And he's got a variety of pass rushing moves, and that's always something that's good. He can power rush, he can speed rush, whatever you want him to do, Aiden Hutchinson can do. He's just a beast. Everyone saw his production at Michigan, and it was truly impressive. And it really hid David Ojabo, which is hard to do considering how flashy, how athletic David Ojabo is. And David Ojabo was barely noticeable next to Aiden Hutchinson. So something to take into account as well about how good Aiden Hutchinson is, that he overshadowed David Ojabo to that extent. Some of his cons, his ankle flexibility, and he has similar athleticism to George Karloff, I'd say, but I think he's a bit more athletic. And his bend is certainly something that maybe might be an issue, but I don't think it will be. But he certainly had a good combine, and his 3-cone was crazy impressive, something that shows great bend, and maybe that's not a problem based on his
6'73", 3-cone, and then the 20-yard shuffle, 4.15, ranked 6th and 4th, respectively, regardless of position. And then you talk about it, Alex. This is a guy that I think, compared to Kavon Thibodeau, right, who I said uses his strength to kind of push off the offensive lineman, he, in Hutchinson, is a guy who moves around them, who uses his speed and quickness to either get the sack or get the tackle, loss of yards. On a running back, he's very good in run defense, like you said. And then also getting the sack, he's shifty. He's able to move around those offensive linemen. And I think it's really interesting because it's 2 different play styles between these top 2 guys and how they get sacks, how they get tackles. And that's just in my opinion. You could see it differently. But I just think it's pretty interesting how they have 2 different play styles and they're ranked the top 2 guys in this NFL draft. The comparison, I think this is a really good one. Joey Bosa, a grade top 5, at this point, top 3 talent, right? We see him going 2 a lot of the time. early first round, athleticism an 8.5, pass rush an 8.5, run defense a 9, technique a 9. And that gives the number 1 edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson, in the 2022 NFL Draft an 8.7 overall out of 10. So with that, that's going to conclude our top edges in the 2022 NFL Draft. Again, thank you so much for watching. You can check out the other rankings, top guys in the 2022 Draft on our channel or on the podcast, the Giant Take Podcast, where you can listen basically everywhere, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Follow us on Twitter at the Giant Take Pod. Most of that stuff should be in the podcast notes or in the description. So with that, Alex, you have any final thoughts? shaking your head no.
No. Sorry, I was
all good. So with that, again, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, listening. We'll see you next time.